Yo, what's going on, everyone? We are live again, WrestlePurists Worldwide, episode 74, hosted by myself, backup hangman Joe Hulbert, and a few things to get into today. CM Punk was on the Ariel Helwani MMA Hour, talking all things AEW, his return to WWE, and it's been very interesting ever since. Cody Rhodes on the new WWE deal, weekend recap, the usual stuff. Well, not usual, because there was a very, very incredible Arena Mexico show, including some of the best of AEW visiting over to CMLL, and we're going to get into all of that. But first things first, please like, subscribe, send any super chats, any questions, any takes, any of your reactions to any of the weekend, CM Punk's interview, anything like that. We'll get them read out. But yeah, hope everyone's doing good. Starting my fellow co-host Joe Hulbert, shades are on, Nitro hat. You're ready, what's going on? It's WrestleMania week as well. I haven't even mentioned that. We got a lot to get into, man.
Yeah, man. I'm just, I'm here. I'm prepared. I had to kind of game plan a little bit for this one. Things changed up in the last couple of hours. Earlier today, I thought we were going to be talking about my fashion choices for 2 hours. And then a certain Chicago man went rogue on the MMA hour. So I put sunglasses on and said, I'm going to just sit quietly while people send super chats. So that's the plan. Hopefully it goes well. But I'm happy to be here as always, brother.
A lot to get into. A lot of things I haven't even mentioned just now. Ibu, CM Punk, a lot of people associate their fandom with, with yourself on Twitter, You're very vocal CM Punk fan, supporter, all those things in between. And it was quite I wouldn't call it explosive, I don't think anything was super surprising, but with that, it becomes, CM Punk being CM Punk. What did you make of it, man?
You asking me this first before you ask how my day went is quite something. It's not about how I'm feeling.
If the chat wants to know how our good friend Ibu of WrestlePurists Day is, put a thumbs up in the chat. If you want to hear
thumbs up for Ibu's feelings, Let's get it.
You got a few. I'll give you a few seconds, people. Because
let's get the.
I'm trying to give you. I'm trying to think of a excuse. Someone said.
Let's see what the people are saying.
Yeah, the people don't want to hear about you there, bro.
You guys are pieces of shit. Well, regarding the Punk interview, I thought it was like wildly compelling viewing. It was 2 hours and it like flew by. Because I tuned into it thinking there's going to be a nice little 20-minute deal and I can move on with my day. And I'm watching this thing. I checked the time and it was like 3:50. And I was like, God, this has been like 2 hours. Holy shit. But it just flew by because, frankly, he's just a compelling person to listen to. And he's talking about subject matter that the people involved just haven't publicly spoken on. So it was almost just kind of like must see for like the wrestling world, at least the hardcore fans. Like, they're all tuned into this thing. So my thoughts on it were that it was just very interesting to hear his perspective with his face on it and his mouth moving, talking about the things that he experienced in AEW. And broadly speaking, what I would say about it is just very interesting. I loved the perspective that he gave on Vince McMahon because I just thought it was very important, and he spoke with no fear of any type of repercussions of anything. And a lot of other people within WWE kind of do that in the middle, like almost passingly saying like, "Oh, it's unfortunate" type of stuff. But they don't want to outright condemn this individual. But with Punk, I just thought he put it together in a way that like kind of hit me because. He mentioned that like he saw Vince when he was in the Connecticut facilities and he spoke to him and hugged him and everything. And he, without straight up saying that he liked Vince, he basically essentially alluded to the fact that he by that point didn't have negative feelings towards him. However, once this all stuff really came out in the gross detail that it did, that's just kind of what it was. And that obviously like it's going to be complex for people to reconcile feelings of, you having an all right experience with somebody, but other people being actively harmed by them and how that works. And he kind of alluded to Benoit. And it made me personally emotional because it just took me back to 2007 and being a kid and my favorite wrestler being revealed to be a monster. And Punk basically just said like, look, I cried on air for that guy. And then a week prior, his kid is doing the X's on the hands for me. And my face is on there crying for him, and then we find out what we found out, and he just kind of compared the situation. But at the end of the day, bad people should rot for harming other people, and I love that part. I thought the AEW stuff was very interesting. I thought some of it was like morosely and unintentionally funny. I just thought like
we'll get into it.
Yeah. And broadly speaking, I think it's something that unless you like really, unless you hate punk in a way that like is bad for like your health, like I mean this sincerely. If you hate punk in that type of way, where like it's like really bad for you to just consume him, then you avoid this. But otherwise, I recommend any wrestling fan check it out, even if you dislike him, just because it's like really entertaining and funny. And if you want to watch it just to be like this guy's full of crap, then you can go do that too. Yeah, it just felt like a 2000 shoot interview, you know.
Oh, go on. Was you finished?
Yeah, just more candid than the usual. Because nowadays wrestling interviews are very protected because companies have a big say now in like what you can and can't do, can and can't say. They review the footage. They make sure it's edited, things like that. Companies will want to see the footage of these interviews before they go out. That's why a lot of wrestling interviews from wrestlers are taped. Phil Brooks went out there, and this is his first public interview since that incident. Notice when he did the ESPN interview with I think it was Ramondi before Collision, it was a written one on article form, right? This was a live on-camera interview, which is crazy. It's a big get for Ariel Helwani. And yeah, it was just candid in a way that you haven't seen since like the shoot interviews of the 2000s.
Yeah, man, it was Joe. How much of it did you manage to catch? Did you catch the whole 2 hours, or did you just see some highlights? Yeah. What was your kind of main takeaway before we kind of like break it down a little bit?
I spent the week completely convinced I wouldn't watch any of it, and then it started, and of course I watched the whole thing. As is the rule of CM Punk. I thought it was very, very engaging and very entertaining. You know, in terms of the right and wrong, I think anyone who watches this show regularly, and you guys both know, I don't really give a shit, especially at this point, right? Like it is what it is. I didn't think it was very entertaining. I agree with you. The Vince answer was, I was glad that he actually had a real answer. As someone who enjoys his work, I was thankful for that much. And I'll say this, my main takeaway, honestly, I know you're going to go in more detail here, but personally, I was glad that he didn't dismiss his entire AEW run, which I actually thought he was going to do. And I think that would have been silly, actually. I thought his take on that, if nothing else, was actually quite measured. And as someone who enjoyed a lot of that run, it was nice for him to not just be like, I've left now, so that's all gone, right? Because there's a lot of good stuff there. So I appreciate that about it. And again, I did think it was very, very entertaining. Very entertaining.
That's a great point, Joe, because I remember like again, Punk's my favorite wrestler, and he was at the time when he quit WWE, right? And when he kind of gave his story on why he quit, I totally understood his perspective, but it was, as a wrestling fan, you want to still see him wrestle, right? Yeah. And so when he would speak on pro wrestling as a whole, if you remember during his days as an attempted UFC fighter, he was very dismissive of pro wrestling as a whole, as if like that wasn't his life's work. And it used to make me kind of sad. I'm like, damn, man, like you did so much great stuff with Raven, with Samoa Joe, with Aries, with Brock Lesnar, with all these guys in WWE, John Cena, and it's just like nothing. You're like, damn, man. And so I'm glad that this time around with AEW, even though he has obviously negative feelings towards AEW, some of his stuff there is some of my favorite stuff in wrestling, in my wrestling fandom. And it's cool that in his own CM Punk way, he still acknowledges that. He said that the positives outweighed the negatives in AEW. And he still put over his feud with MJF, which, in my view, on a weekly basis, watching it, was some of the best American wrestling storytelling I've ever seen. So that was cool to see. And obviously, he buried like the business mindset of AEW and Tony's leadership style and things like that. He took his shots, of course he did, but it wasn't like a full scorched earth, like fuck AEW, fuck this guy, fuck that guy, fuck that guy, fuck that. This all sucks. It's trash. Blah 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 blah. You know, it's very it was measured, like you said. I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm gonna take a little quick dive into some super chats because I assume a lot of them will be about Punk at the start of this. Then we'll kind of go through some of the highlights of the interview and try not to spend too much time on it. But we do want to get it covered properly. Anjan PN, $2. Appreciate you. What do you want to talk about? Question mark. That Joe Hulbert fit. I was I don't know how to describe what happened yesterday.
Well, I don't either. I wanted to actually tell this very quickly because I know we have much more important things to talk about, to say the least. But I met Chuck very briefly before the show, and I said I'd see her in the midst of the show, and I did. It was a very brief meeting, and we got a photo. And she sent me the photo, and I said, well, that is an unfortunate photo because neither of us looked very happy to be there, but I'm sure we were. It just happened, you know? So I'm kind of sitting there thinking, that was a shame, that photo. Like, I wish I was smiling more. I look like I'm doing a meet and greet. Then I come back to my phone, and it is like, I've got like DMs about like tracksuits, and I can honestly say I was not prepared for what happened. It was very, very funny. I think I appreciate it, even though I find it slightly insulting that people were surprised that I didn't dress like some sort of outlaw. It was very funny, seriously. It was very, very fun.
Yeah, go check out the fit, people. It's on the WrestlePurists page actually. Our last tweet is yeah, man. Charlie tweeted out the picture of them two yesterday at the Rev Pro show, and just flooded with quote tweets of "Yo, Homer's got that shit on." Like,
I got the ball rolling on that one. I
You did. You had some funny ones, bro, I must say.
Yeah, I'm telling Joe in that picture, if you didn't know how he sounded, right? He literally first of all, he looks like Static Selecta, who, for those who don't know, that's a producer. He looks like Static Selecta, and he looks like he just makes like these. Joe just looks like he raps on boom bap beats. He looks like he'd be in some dirty New York gutter with a bunch of other dudes in hoodies, and he's just like, microphone check 1 2 1 2. It's from the Bronx, pussy. Starts rapping or something, you know, and it just looked like that was the vibe I was getting. Joe had this shit on, and at the end of the day, man, when you got that full body Nike tech, you know, it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different. I thought Joe was gonna start getting sturdy on me, like he's gonna do the woo walk or something. You know?
Good shit, man. Karan, 100 rupees, appreciate you as always. Can we at least start with Randall and Punk gassing up a decent match as a classic, talking about the squash beef, and Anderson. Yes, those of you who don't know, CM Punk, Randy Orton did one of those WWE YouTube channel, watch one of your old matches together things that they do, and it's a good bit of business, wasn't it, Joe? You know,
it was awesome. Yeah.
Before all the chaos that unfolded on the timeline with CM Punk and his interview, you know, I was sitting at home, popping at him and Randall, watching the years back, you know.
It was tremendous, and it's one of those. I mean, I haven't watched that match in a long time, but that format makes you actually get convinced, right? You go, "This was what a match this was." You start popping huge. It was really, really cool. I actually, I knew they'd done it because Punk had basically posted as much, so I was like looking forward to seeing it. But I didn't expect them to go as deep in kind of wrestling psychology as they did. But Randy doesn't. Randy doesn't even have an on-camera mode anymore. He just sits there and talks, right? He's effing, and you know, God bless him. I mean, he's fun to watch in that format for sure.
What makes it even better is I can tell you guys this. When Randy came in, he basically was asking the people behind the camera, like, "Can I curse?" And they were kind of like, "Well, we'll edit it." It was basically one of those things of like, can you like not make this hard to edit? You know, do you know what I mean? Where it's like, obviously, because it's a hassle to do it, right? And Randy's just like, I'm just gonna talk normal and fuck it, you know. And like Randy's the type of dude that when he just talks normal, like he says shit and fuck every 2 seconds. So
yeah,
good stuff. I'd definitely recommend checking that one out. PFAF PDF, $2, appreciate it. Hulbert fashion greater than Hangy fashion. Many are saying this after this weekend. Tribal Kev, Tribal Kev 199, appreciate you as always. CM Punk is spot on about AEW's model, true GOAT. We'll definitely get a bit more into that in a couple of minutes. Hamza Mohammed 499, appreciate you as always. I'm deep into worldwide law. I'm too deep into worldwide law that I was waiting for you guys' opinions on a Randall and Punk watch along. LMAO. Wow.
That watch along was very worldwide branded, so
it was, yeah.
It's good shit, bro. It's good shit. Hush, $5, appreciate you as always. Calls TK a clown, calls the company a joke, buries a few people, then calls for AEW fans to stop the tribalism.
Yo,
Literally, no one does it like him.
that's what I meant by like unintentionally funny, because like, he's talking about all these different things, and he's like, I choked Jack Perry a little bit, and this and that, and at the end of it, he's like, AEW fans, look, guys, can we just have a truce? Like, can we just drop this, and then we just shake on it, and then you guys leave me the fuck alone. Like,
No.
all right, and that's following him going like, AEW's business stinks. What the fuck is going? I don't know what they do over there. They don't sell tickets. They're basically just putting on an indie show. And then at the end, he's like, AEW fans, are we cool? Are we cool? Can we just shake a hug on this?
It's a good time. What you getting to? Dollars, appreciate you. What's the reaction so far from both sides?
Let me think about this. I haven't heard much from WWE. I've heard from various people in AEW immediately, as per usual, and people were just kind of essentially live reacting to the interview in my messages, and some people agreed with some of the things he was expressing when it comes to the philosophical approach of AEW. Let me make this clear: the philosophical approach of AEW. I had people in my messages agreeing with me. I had people in my messages from AEW that strongly disagreed with just his mentality, and other people that took exception to how he gave his story regarding the Jack Perry thing. Specifically, they felt that what Punk is omitting from the story is that the reason Jack was upset with him was because there was a belief from people that Punk was the one that leaked to the media that this situation even happened, the glass thing. Because the glass thing happened, Punk's conversation with Jack, apparently, according to everybody, it is exactly how Punk said it was, which was that he went to Jack and approached him and spoke about it. And the people from AEW were basically just saying to me that that Jack, after the conversation with Punk, was kind of like, all right, like he was just kind of like, all right, it was a disagreement, so be it. And that apparently what they feel Punk omitted is that they think that Punk leaked the story to the media. Jack did not like it because it made him look whatever, petulant, whatever it might be. And his way of taking that out was taking the shot at him on air. And he did that because he was upset. But other than that, it was just generally just reactions to things he's saying, LOLing at certain things, or that's a fair point at that, other things like that. Didn't hear from anyone from WWE about this. So I guess we'll see on that one.
Showtime Spurs, $5. Appreciate you as always. All I'll say is anti-guaranteed money is a very suburban mentality. # Lockport Phil. That's from Showtime Spurs, who does not believe Mr. Phil Brooks, Mr. CM Punk is not a true Chicago man. I've seen that quote getting thrown around a lot, like, he's anti-guaranteed money, and CM Punk says he's guaranteed, but he's kind of a poorly worded thought more than anything.
Yeah,
it's more kind of like the context I kind of took it in was kind of he feels a way about kind of the complacency that a lot of wrestlers have, in terms of, like, he even said when he was talking about AEW, like, some people in AEW don't want to show up for work. Like, that was something that, like, he kind of scattered throughout. So I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you think, Gibbo?
That's like the sentiment that he was trying to say was essentially that, like, because obviously before, when you didn't have a guaranteed TV contract, for example, right? Because now, like, companies survive off TV money, for example. Before, it was like you have to literally sell out buildings or just sell tickets to survive. And when that's your mentality, you run a wrestling company completely differently, right? And I think what he was attempting to express was that when that's the mentality and when that's the setup, it's not run the way AEW is run. I mean, whether you think that's a good thing or bad thing, that's, like, objectively true. But he expressed that by going, guys got guaranteed money now, and it's like that's a good thing. Like, you should want people to have guaranteed money. And so, just as a quote, like, obviously, like, if people reading that quote, like, it's a lame quote, and I just don't agree with him at all. If I spoke to him on air, I'd be like, I would challenge that. I'd be like, so you don't think guaranteed money is a good thing, Phil? Because obviously it's a good thing. You know what I mean, for these performers. So that's just kind of my general
10% of the guaranteed money conversation, and that's why it's a terrible sentence, right? Because it's like there's so much more nuance to the positives of guaranteed money. He's sitting there with an injury, he doesn't have to wrestle through because he has guaranteed money.
Yes.
You know, like it's a very, very complex thing. And I agree in the wider context of the interview, it does it makes more sense, but that doesn't mean it's good, true, or well thought out.
No,
It's
yeah, absolutely.
at best, it's poorly phrased. At worst, it's just like straight up old head shit. It's dumb, you know.
Yeah.
Average
The
biscuit enjoy it.
boys wanted guaranteed money when they didn't have it. It's not even like they're romantic. Like these guys were working through ACL injuries and like messed up shoulders and what have you, and half of them got their lives shortened because of these things. And I'm sure half of them would love to be taken off the road. You had dudes having to rush back to TV with injuries to at least cut promos or do something physical because they just needed to pay their bills.
Yeah, man. Average biscuit enjoyer $4.99. Appreciate you as always. Not being able to catch one of these lives in a while due to reasons. Glad I'm back for a calm and relaxed day of wrestling news. Glad to have you. Hush, $2. Appreciate you again. Surprising how close Nick Khan and Punk are. Well, he said it in the interview. Like, you know, he used to be he's with CIA. Nick Khan was obviously a big part of CIA. You know, Nick Khan was trying to get him to join WWE before he was even at WWE. So, yeah, there was a lot of interesting things like that. I think he even said at one point that if Nick Khan wasn't where he is in WWE now, then he still thinks that he probably wouldn't be back there. So, obviously, a vital player in making things happen in WWE, but we already know that. So, you know, Kale, 50, appreciate you. 3 takeaways. A, Punk is hilarious. Is a hilarious individual. B, super lame payment take. C, lol Jack Perry.
I gotta say, if everything that Punk said about what Jack said to him is true, it like weirdly pops me in the sense that like Jack, for example, kind of like just being full of piss and vinegar and like him telling Punk, what are you gonna do about it? Because like obviously like he shouldn't do that. But when you're in his position at his age and where he is on the pecking order versus a CM Punk, for example, him knowing the consequences, but still just kind of puffing his chest out like in a macho way. Again, Punk alluded to it himself. Like he was that guy. Punk was the one when Undertaker said, "You don't dress like a champion." He's just kind of like, he basically was like, "Go fuck yourself," you know. And again, you could say a lot of different things about Jack Perry, and I don't agree with how he's, I guess, handled his side of the situation. But I don't know. It just weirdly kind of pops me, and I like weirdly, like it's so weird. I just weirdly kind of respect that on his end. Like he just stood up for himself, and if, I guess from his point of view. So yeah, he's gonna Punk. He bumps Punk, and he owned up to this shit. He was like, "Yo, what are you gonna fucking do about it then?" And challenged Punk to fight him. And I will say this about the Jack Perry thing. Punk's recanting of it is funny because it's just the male ego is amazing. He describes Jack Perry as someone he likes. He said, I like Jack Perry. They told me to talk to him. I talked to him in a calm, hushed tone and stuff like that. And the way he frames it basically makes it a situation where it's like, well, this dude just said, what are you going to do about it? I'm in front of my friends. We now have to fight because this is just how this goes. And that's how it is. That's real life. That is real life. I've been in situations like this. So it's just fascinating.
Sounds like you just got into it in real life just then.
My
$2, appreciate it. Ibu, impression of Hunter seeing Punk there tonight. You ready?
It's a lot of shit. Okay, how do we channel that, all right, into what we do and really make it something that can really help this global brand that we're building here? How do we move that into what we got going on Sunday?
Put him on the spot, Arve, $5, appreciate it. Joe, after wearing sunglasses today and the suit on Sunday, the suit, how long before you become British Soberano Jr.?
We've got a ways to go. Yeah, I think, to be honest with you. But the suit being the official terminology is incredible.
Yo, Monty, everyone, the dudes in the chat are writing the "What We Do" thing in the Roman Reigns documentary. Triple H literally says something along the lines like,
Roman's transformation and fitting into what we do. as a
He is. He's going to say it 4,000 times on the press conferences on Sunday.
It just go to what we do.
Tribal Kev, 199, appreciate you. Punk's mindset on what draws is unbelievable. I mean, he draws, so I'm sure he's fine. Berkey 199, appreciate Joe Hall, but when is the collab with the Alchemist dropping?
We're in talks. That's all I'm going to say. Ibu's he's working on some things for me. That's all I'm going to say.
Hush $2. Punk saying he's not online while debunking. Good bit.
Dude, there was one point after he said he deleted Twitter where he was literally going to say that's what they say on Twitter, and he stopped himself social media. just like battling this like imaginary app now because he's got to pretend he's off Twitter. Okay, bro. We know you're out there. I probably follow you if we're being right. We're probably mutuals. It's okay.
He's
Bro.
He's definitely replied to a WrestlePurists aggregation.
Yeah.
Bro, 499, appreciate you as always. Much more clear now is that when Punk said, I'm trying to run a business here, these guys think they're still in Reseda. He meant TK too long. Well, there was a lot. He said a lot of things over the past couple of years about AEW, when you unpack it all, but Khalil 2025 499, appreciate you. Punk's rivalry with Seth and Drew, can it get to that level of Triple H hatred rivals he had with Orton, Rock, Austin, and HBK?
I don't think Triple H's rivalry with Randy Orton was particularly good outside of the WrestleMania 25 build. Triple H Rock, that was super fun and dynamic, but it wasn't like it wasn't like the type of blood feud like a territory style feud. It was like just it's hard to explain. It's an interesting comparison here. I don't know, but speaking for Punk and Seth and Punk and Drew, I think Punk and Drew is absolute money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's absolute money. And now that they're going to be more relaxed with blading restrictions, as per Dave Meltzer, I think that Punk versus Drew,
another level, brother.
Punk versus Drew with a little bit of color. That's going to be one of my favorite matches of the year. Just pretty much off rip on concept.
The kid $2 references what we was just talking about this, so we kind of touched on it before we read it out. But $2, Ibu was in line about not being on Twitter.
Kayfabe, brother.
MA 299. Joe, prime Danny Rose or prime Benoit Asuakato? Who you taking?
Danny Rose, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm
not a Spurs guy, but yeah. So
yeah, Asuakato was solid. He never liked football. It's a bit of a limiting issue when you're a footballer, isn't
it? Very
not ideal, really, is it?
Fascinating these stories, But,
yeah.
Black Yakuzu 94 $2, appreciate it. Wrestling is the greatest clown show ever. Agreed. Darren Walker £5, appreciate you. With more news of Vince today and Punk interview, the media scrums at WWE and ROH will be interesting this weekend.
I bet they're not.
Yeah, I don't
know. Every time.
I actually like Punk's line about that. He said scrums suck and they're cringe, and I was like, yeah,
that was the most accurate thing he said in the whole thing, bro.
Yeah, that's very factual. They stink.
LMAO JK $5, appreciate it. The Jack Perry altercation is so funny to me because if it went like that, he's exactly the kind of kid that CM Punk birthed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what we were saying. Yeah.
It's the cycle of life, You were a little shit, and then you birthed some little shits, and then you got to deal with little shits, and you're like, fuck. Look at these little shits.
But yeah, man. Any more questions? Any more hot takes? Any more whatever? Get them super chats in, and we'll get them read out. But it's all right. So what I'm gonna do here is because it's a 2-hour interview, people. What do you want from us? So I'm just gonna go through what we tweeted on the WrestlePurists account and kind of there's a few gaps in between, but so like the interview starts. It's in studio. He's got his what do you even call those elbow braces? Like you can still bend. What? It's like a robotic arm.
They look pretty cool though.
They do. So he's got that. He's got that on. He's but yeah, he arrives in studio. His first his first proper interview in a while, you know, because we got the ESPN interview, but you could tell that was kind of like almost like kind of restrained because he was going back into AEW, so he couldn't unload the clip. Then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, it was written, it was edited, it was this, it was that, and even still, then there was a whole day of discourse from that, you know, because he did say like some more subtle things, you know. But this is like his first, especially in studio. This is like his first live in studio interviewing, as long as I can remember, you know. So obviously, he's been through. He's been in the middle of quite a lot of things the past 2 years, Joe. So, you know, a lot to get into. Of course, currently injured. Said he got injured not that far into the Men's Royal Rumble. He said he was also as well like talking about, because Ariel asked him, you know, like, what is it the same injury that you had in AEW? It's different arm though. And he was like, yeah, it's the same injury, but he says last time it felt like it just elastic bang like popped, you know, and he kind of just like got on with it. Whereas this one, he's saying it was more painful, it was more this, it was more that. It was just, you know, seemed like even though it's the same injury, it definitely affected him differently, you know. So that was kind of like a little injury update that started off with. Then they got into kind of him returning to WWE. He said that the ball really started rolling the week of Thanksgiving. He says he got a call from Nick Khan, and they initially asked about the Royal Rumble because, of course, they were under the impression that he had a non-compete clause, but he confirms in this interview there was no non-compete clause with AEW whatsoever. Look, he could have shown up on Raw he could have shown up on Raw the weekend of All Out, you know, like he could have done that. So he confirmed he had no non-compete. And Nick Khan said that he wished he knew that, but they were still aiming for the Royal Rumble, but CM Punk was the one pushing for Survivor Series. Of course, with it being in Chicago, it made all the sense in the world. He says that he had a FaceTime with Triple H before his WWE return.
When
Buried the hatchet.
Punk wanted to talk to Hunter, and Hunter was like,
I want to see your face.
like, what the hell?
You know that when Triple H does a FaceTime, like his backdrop is like very deliberate. It's like a portrait of DX behind him, skulls. Yeah.
I want to hear Hunter's side on that. Like he's gonna be like,
I wanted to look at his eyes.
In his eyes.
I can tell you this. Hunter definitely he is a FaceTime merchant. I've been told he just likes to FaceTime people. I don't know what that's all about.
I will say, there was some truth here about what Punk said about the Triple H thing that is so true across wrestling. When he said it was an issue between them that had taken a life of its own while they'd never spoken about it. If only the same approach be taken for more wrestling conflicts. That's 90% of the time, it's a small thing that then other people talk about. Sound familiar? And it becomes a big thing in the heads of the people that actually had the issue. You know, like their beef's like nothing really, but they'd heard so much about it. It's like we have to FaceTime to squash this lifelong conflict. It's dumb. I wish other listeners would learn. Yeah, it's like
Punk even says in it as well. It was like he said it to him at one point, or he was going to say it to him, like, you know, it's Thanksgiving week. You know, I don't want to take time away from you girls and stuff. And then he realised, you know, like if we're doing it, we might as well. Like, let's do it.
We have to talk about our match that didn't happen at WrestleMania 30. Otherwise, this cannot proceed. You know, like it's so pro wrestling.
I didn't meet with you. I didn't. You know, I didn't really see it that way. You know.
No, you definitely buried me to fucking Sean.
I just thought you were kind of a fucking indie schmuck, you know? You love me.
It looks like, I could just, how that thing went. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey.
What else?
No heat. And he threw up the too sweet, you know? Can confirm that he too
WWE.
And I was going to say, I can confirm he too sweets people backstage.
Throw that in there. Should report it, you know. We'll get a 1,000-word article on it. Jamie, Get on it.
Mhm.
All right. So what else did we have pre WWE? Okay, so when he was still on the AEW contract and he visited WWE May of last year, and there was a report from Fightful Select that he visited backstage. He briefly spoke with Triple H before he had to be escorted away from the building. Yeah, he basically confirmed all that and gave a bit more details on it. I think it was something along the lines of like he was on the same flight as Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan told Bailey. Bailey said, "Come to the show. Fuck it." Gotta love Pam, Gotta love Pam. So Bailey's invited into the show. CM Punk was also like, you know what, fuck it. And he says he was just there visiting friends. Spoke to Triple H briefly, and um, Triple H went and called Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon was like, get him out of here. And he got him out of there. So, yeah.
Didn't he say he ran?
Yeah.
Didn't he say he ran into Jason Jordan?
He did. That was very funny. It should be noted that, again, it is what it is. Take it or leave it with most of these comments, but Punk's like dismissive, just seeing pals. Was so like even he couldn't pull that one off, like I was just seeing pals. I don't see the big deal.
He compared it like it's just a big wrestling show. Hit your time.
Yeah, I'm an old timer in the business. Like, all right, bro.
But yeah, the fallout from that visit, CM Punk took to Raw. Visiting his friends, he says, invited by Bailey after bumping into Liv Morgan on the plane. AEW were not very happy, and the word betrayed was used, Joe Hall, but he betrayed AEW in May of last year.
That's never
Shocking.
good. Yeah. I get I do. That is obviously very dramatic. I do get the timing was pretty rough because if you remember, that's like during like the rollout of Collision, which wasn't ideal. Again, that's one of those things that you can look at in a vacuum, but in the wider picture of the story, obviously, it's a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more theatrical.
He put poor Tony Khan through a lot of stuff. Joe Hall, he betrayed him.
I've heard that. Yeah,
he's got lawyers on him. He had him scared for his life. He's put him through it, Joe. I wouldn't take it from any of my talent.
You wouldn't actually, legitimately, you wouldn't. Yeah.
That part popped me because that was definitely Tony that said it. Tony definitely was like, "I feel like you betrayed me, Phil." Tony definitely said this to him. Like that's Tony. It wasn't. It's not gonna be freaking Jerry Lynn that's like, "You betrayed us, Punk." It was definitely Tony that's like, Phil, why did you do that, man? You really betrayed me here. And Punk was probably like, "What are you talking about, dude? I'm gonna, come on."
God bless. Anyway, pre-WWE, we're at Survivor Series now. So CM Punk says that he signed his WWE contract literally just before walking into Gorilla at Survivor Series. And he said that he was in the same boat as everybody else in the weeks leading up to the Survivor Series. He didn't know what was going on with all those little subtle hints WWE was doing. He says from his side of things, only his wife, which obviously is AJ Lee, Nick Khan, Triple H, and lawyers knew beforehand. And he only let his family know when he was literally on his way to the building. So that's that. That's him getting signed up with, one second, I'm just reading through this. Yeah, so yeah, that's it. That's how we ended up in WWE. Pretty much a lot of it was already reported, to be fair, and you were just kind of confirming a lot of what Sean reported to give props to him, So
absolutely.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have tried to give him shit about it because he was obviously he isn't signed. Then 2 minutes before he walks out, he's like, I've changed my mind. Do you know what I mean? And I can understand if you're looking at it without seeing all of his reporting together, if you're an outsider / hater of Sean Ross Sapp, how people can twist that into a narrative that he was wrong. He's like, no, his reporting was pretty good on this CM Punk rather than WWE. So, yeah, man. Obviously, he was asked about the changes backstage now in WWE. He says it's definitely, it's definitely different in WWE now. It's better. It's better without Vince McMahon. He said that somebody at WWE explained to him that they're super happy and glad that he's back there so he can experience the culture backstage that he helped create because he was a catalyst for it, and then he left and now he's back. He said that was something that like got to him, that really made him feel something, which
I'm
It's a
gonna
nice sentiment. Yeah, nice sentiment, definitely.
I'm gonna pause you there because I just thought it was interesting that Punk gets very visibly uncomfortable when you kind of press him to give out a lot of like backstage dynamics. He doesn't like revealing that stuff. And so when Ariel is like, how is it different? You can see him kind of squirm a little bit. He's like, fuck, I don't really like doing this thing, and he kind of went in a little bit.
It hurts. He's like, he talks about it a lot in the interview, but like he likes having the kind of reputation of like the rebel, right, in the locker room.
Yeah.
So him talking about the morale, it's not really doing much good for that. I think that that's a lot of it. I think
beyond that, his mindset, and like you said, he touches on this. He just he likes that it's not super clear to the public who he is and isn't cool with at the moment, where he stands with certain people. He wants you to not be sure because it helps what he's doing on TV, which is why what he says when he talks about drawing money.
Yeah, man. And again, let's talk about these Vince McMahon comments on his comments on Vince McMahon's allegations, lawsuit, and of course the obvious stuff. I've got an actual quote here. So he says that there's no positivity there. It's very much I didn't read all the allegations. I read the text messages and I went, oh, fuck this. It's indefensible, And I think doing this, I imagine I would be asked about it. And I think the easiest thing for some people to do is kind of ignore it or avoid it. But man, it's there. And my initial first thing out of my mouth was I'm kind of shocked at how dumb he was, like writing the stuff down and leaving that paper trail. And it's horrific. I think at this point, all the energy should be used somehow. I don't even know if you can to make reparations and amends, but there's victims here, So like what CM Punk thinks about Vince and the CM Punk Vince relationship doesn't fucking mean anything. All of that stuff takes a backseat. I'm more concerned about going forward. How do those people survive after all that trauma? That's my biggest concern.
That's something I think everyone can agree on, right? And the one thing I would say about his answer, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it was very apparent that he was like actually answering it in the moment. It wasn't like a prepared sort of like you could tell, especially when he brought up the Benoit and all that stuff. You could tell that he was kind of piecing it together as he went, which I appreciated. And like I think Ibu kind of talks about it earlier. We don't need to go over that again, but that was so. I think we can all co-sign. So that I'm glad that was his answer to that.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell that like some of the WWE stars that have been asked about so far I don't think they do this like even intentionally. Sometimes they kind of fall into this thing of like they don't want to.
It's hard.
You know what I mean? They don't want to. They don't want to like ruffle too many feathers and say anything that might get like taken out of context crazily or anything. So they always fall into like it's kind of unfortunate thing of like, oh wow, in my experience, I had a good time. You know what I mean? I've always had a good time under Vince's leadership, and it's like so like,
which is hard thing. It is really difficult.
Which is why he opened up by saying it doesn't fucking matter what my relationship was. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And as he got into early, he said he kind of made him feel about like the time that obviously being friends and knowing his kids with Chris Benoit and the double murder there, that was probably it's quite the comparison, but. It is crazy for the people, So like we always talk about. Well, we don't always talk about, but it's more. It's like we've spoke about it a few times, more so privately about like, like the way Jericho talks about Benoit, and it's just like you can tell that like there's just something. He still can't believe it,
Yeah.
Like there is a part of him that don't. So it's like it's a weird subject for these people, but. It is good to see when they take a firm stance and be like, no, like regardless of my relationship with them, what they've been accused of or what they've been proven guilty of is indefensible, So it's good he made that line very clear, He confirmed that he would have been main event in WrestleMania Night 1 with Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Okay. So now we're getting into getting deep into the AEW stuff now. So he talks about, remember the reports that when he arrived in London for All In, there was no one there to greet him or no transport or anything set up for him. He basically confirmed that and said basically it was, he had to get on the tube and he didn't mind too much, you know what I mean? It was fun and it was an adventure, I think was the word he said, but it was irresponsible of AEW to leave him stranded like that. So
I'm sorry. Punk explaining that his attitude was, this will be an adventure, was fucking hilarious. I got a feeling it wasn't quite that response, but I could be wrong. I wasn't there. I don't know. I imagine it was a little bit more colourful then. Oh, this will be fun.
These goddamn fucking pussies.
Yeah. Text. Let me not.
And he kind of got into kind of like the whole dynamic backstage, kind of in a broad sense, saying that, Tony Khan's big idea with AEW was to separate the show, was a separate show, which obviously ended up being AEW Collision, and separate everybody and keep everybody with issues away from each other. And at that time, when Khan was talking to Punk about it, CM Punk claims that he told Khan that it would never work and just let me go. And obviously Tony Khan refused, and it played out how it played out. And then this is kind of his version of events from the Jack Perry thing. So CM Punk said at an early Collision, Tony Schiavone came up to him and said Jack Perry was cussing him out, cussing out Mike Mansory, cussing out Daryl from production, cussing out doctors, and he's just going off on one. Punk said he asked why, but was skeptical about getting involved because Jack Perry wasn't even supposed to be at Collision, as Punk was told everyone was being separated on Collision at the time. He says Schiavone insisted and got him to come out of catering and say something to Perry, and saw that basically Jack Perry wanted to smash a rental car's window with a lead pipe. And he said he told Jack Perry politely because, quote, he likes Jack. He said he told him that Mansory, Daryl, Schiavone, and doctors have told you no, and now I have to tell you no. And apparently you've cussed them all out, so now I'm telling you no. We don't do that here. If you want to do this, go to Wednesday and do it. And then Punk said that Perry had no problem and said, I just thought it was a really cool idea. He says, Punk said that he wasn't trying to throw his weight around and thought it was a dumb idea. So that's his version of events. Joe Hulbert.
Yeah, I don't doubt the story. I think what we said earlier is the more important kind of pressing matter about why the story got out there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably be that because I have not heard any suggestion that story isn't true.
AEW,
how it came to be.
AEW in the past, and then literally today, once again, like everything that Punk said, they basically were like, that's what happened. They just felt that he omitted that. Jack was the reason Jack like held on to this and was angry was because he ended up reading a report with his name on it about the situation, and he didn't like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, as many people know, this all snowballed and it festered into what we got at All In Wembley, where, Jack Perry made that shot in his match with Hook early in the show. What was it? Cry Me a Real... No, Real Glass, Go Cry Me a River, or whatever the fuck. So CM Punk on what happened at AEW All In regarding his physical altercation with Jack Perry. So CM Punk says that he went up to Jack Perry at Wembley after Perry's match and said, why do you insist on doing this dumb internet shit like on TV? And he was like, if you've got a problem with it, do something about it. And I was like, come on, man, I'll fucking kill you. Kind of like chuckle to himself a bit. What are we doing, And just like Chael says, I can't let you get close. I thought I was doing the responsible thing. I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. So Mojo Joe was there, told me to stop, and then I quit. I turned to Tony Khan and said, this place is a fucking joke, man. You're a clown. I quit. I went to my room, and then later Joe and Jerry Lynn came and got me, and were like, let's just go out and kill it. And then he went out for his match with Samoa Joe, and in my opinion, did kill it. So,
What a sequence of events.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The severity of the physicality is like different in every story. This is the first time he's told it to me. I'm not saying his story. I mean, we've heard different versions of the story, right?
Mhm.
There's been, obviously, I don't know. Clearly, I haven't got a clue, but like we've heard many different versions of where like it was a front headlock. He said I choked him a little bit. Make of that what you will.
What is it? What
I
is
don't
it?
know.
It's a little choky.
Choked a little. Is that like
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think that must mean like you get him in position, like so like the person knows like, yo, I can choke you out right now, you know. Maybe I don't know.
So okay, am I imagining this, or was at one point one of the stories that like he didn't he like in one of the stories? Let me be clear, folks. I'm talking about what there's been a million stories.
Right.
Didn't he lunge at Tony in one of the towels?
In one of the tales, he said what Punk said. He said, "Well, like I quit. This place sucks." Blah,
Right.
blah, blah. Like he did that while lunging at Tony, and then like monitors fell and stuff, and so that's why Tony feared for his life, was because
Got you.
Punk was yelling these things while things are falling all over the place, and he's kind of charging towards Tony, saying these things.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining that because I was confused for a second. Okay, cool.
And to my knowledge, unless I got to go back, I don't know if Punk straight up denied that he lunged. He just kind of was like, it's a billionaire. What do you want from me?
There's been so many different versions at this point. I have no clue. I don't know.
It's
Right.
ridiculous, but yeah. Speaking of Tony Khan's leadership, CM Punk says, and quote, "The truth is the truth. He's not a boss. He's a nice guy." And I think ultimately, that's a detriment to the company. A lot of people have, that's been kind of like I wouldn't say it's a consensus that, everyone in the world thinks Tony Khan's a nice guy, but there is a lot of people that think he's a bit too nice and too lenient and complacent for his own good. That's something that some people are a lot more louder with publicly. Some people are a lot more like private with it, and that includes people in the business as well. So it's kind of like that whole debate of is Tony Khan too nice is something that I think will go on for like ever, because a lot of people will be like, workers' rights, people getting paid. Where would we be without AEW? It'd be the monopoly still, etc., etc., etc. Like there is valid points for and against, I think. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear it a lot. You hear the opposite a lot, as you just said. Like I wasn't at all surprised that he was on that side of it because of what his experience was, right?
Of course.
But it is, I guess what I would say is I'm nowhere near as well connected as many of the folks you can listen to out there, but I'm aware enough to know that there are a lot of active wrestlers that would say that. They don't always mean it in like this place is a joke way either. Sometimes it's a case of like, fuck, Tony's too nice to these dudes, You hear that's like a very common sentiment. Again, the way it's phrased and the context is very important, obviously. But yeah, it didn't surprise me at all.
And speaking of them being too
There were
nice,
veterans that expressed that to Wade Keller shortly after Brawl In.
Yeah. It's been expressed from literally like day one. Like I said, I think it'll be something that fans and insiders and even the wrestlers amongst themselves will probably like debate for years to come, But yeah, speaking of Tony Khan not being nice, according to CM Punk says that nobody in AEW talked to him for 6 months. Nobody at all, no contact, nothing from anybody for 6 months after the brawl out. He said he had to sort out his tricep surgery by himself and had to pay for it himself and shit. And he says the difference between getting injured in both companies now is night and day. I was quite surprised by that, actually. I know Joey was talking before, like, did anything really surprise us? And there was very little, if anything. But now that we've kind of revisited this, like, that's kind of crazy,
Yeah.
AEW kind of like leaving him in the dark's one thing, but leaving him in the dark whilst he's injured and not fucking following up on said injury is like crazy, So
I couldn't tell if he said he paid for it or they paid for it but didn't follow up on the recovery. I genuinely couldn't tell. Because he was going at that point. he was going. But yeah, I would like to. That's actually something that would be a worthwhile follow-up question to the AEW side of things. Is like, you got to assume his experience was specifically shaped by, right or wrong, almost certainly later, but it was shaped by what happened, right? Like he was kind of frozen out. I would assume, or hope at least, that's not the norm. Not that he should have experienced it, but you get my point, right? Obviously, that was a unique circumstance. He not only sustained an injury, but 1,000,001 incidents happened on the night he sustained it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, back to what do you even call this? Tony Khan slander. He said, and quote, about AEW, it's just not a real business. It's not about selling tickets. It's not about drawing money. It's not about making money. It's just not. And Ariel asked him, so what is it about? And he was like, I don't know. I think maybe having good matches, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what he made it sound like, you know? It's again, he's done that thing where he said, like, he buries something, and he's like, well, you know, it's all right. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
It was he's made his stance clear on like where he is philosophically, and then it will be like this thing that I think is dumb. Like, I mean, it's cool if they want to do that. Like, it's kind of like that was kind of his thing. He kind of compared their philosophy to independent wrestling. He made mention that he was at an indie show in Chicago, and that a woman approached him and said, "Hey, what do you think about my match?" And he said he had a dilemma, and he said "What do you think I thought of your match?" And she said, "Oh, that I didn't sell enough, and then I did too much." And Punk said, "Well, yeah, but that's a tasting. That's a me thing. How did you guys draw tonight?" And she said, "We sold the place out." And Punk said, "So like at that level, like you can do what you can and just be successful." And he kept bringing that up when talking about AEW and their business model, was that he just kept saying like it's at what level and then what are you trying to achieve? And so it was interesting.
Yeah, man. But yeah, anything more about AEW's business? Oh yeah, you confirmed that you had 2 AEW contracts, one for being a wrestler, one for being a consultant. Tony Khan.
Finally, brother, do you know how long that's been a mystery? Dudes have been fighting about that one for a minute. Tony Khan denied. Oh, no. It's because someone asked him, "Is Punk like a stock? Does he own stock?" And he was like, "No." But there's been suspicion about Punk being an employee of AEW for a long time. And so he finally confirmed it.
He did. Yeah, more Nick Khan. And he said, I don't regret my time there. Oh, actually, one last thing. CM Punk says, even before joining AEW, he was close to rejoining WWE. And he even before he was on WWE backstage as well. So like, we're going a while back. CM Punk nearly retired to WWE. He even said that he had some kind of handshake deal in place, but then it didn't happen. He says Nick Khan led the charge even before Nick Khan joined WWE, as previously mentioned. He was with CAA. So, yeah, man. He said, I don't regret my time in AEW. He's just been brutally honest about some things, and it's done. And this is when he kind of, it's called. I hope AEW is happy. I know I am. I would like to leave it at that. I understand fans and tribalism. I'm a Blackhawks fan. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and so I will always troll and needle White Sox fans, Blues fans, Predators. But some of the stuff was so outlandish, talking about my dog and all this awful stuff. Larry's a sensitive subject for CM Punk, isn't it, Ibo? Sensitive subject. Ibo, where you at? He's gone.
Yeah.
What happened?
You're correct. You're correct regardless. Absolutely.
My apologies. Was I called up?
No, don't worry. You don't worry about it.
All right.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Anyway, where do we go from here? CM Punk, Ariel Helwani, MMA Hour, 2-hour interview. A lot to unpack in it, but we don't need to talk about it again now, except for a few super chats. Keep them coming, people. Hush $2. Why do they always do the cringe hashtag bad luck IMO? Who?
Some AEW talents are doing like the hashtag
Thank you, AEW.
Thank you, AEW, or AEW saved my life, or AEW saved wrestling. Like a couple of them have tweeted that.
Greek Foley, $4.99. Appreciate you. Brawl Out's the greatest thing to happen for wrestling content creators. Generational longevity. Single-handedly will pay to put people's children through college. My children will be very thankful. Hush, $2. Appreciate you. Hunter Death holds the phone like 60-year mom on FaceTime. Yeah, probably.
He sits it like at a certain angle and shoots it from like you see him.
Oh, he sits it up on his desk.
Yeah, and he'll wear like glasses.
Based. Will Chisholm, $10 appreciate it. I'm not surprised Bailey told Punk to come. For the sense he's cool with Mercedes. Tony better keep her happy or he'll get Punk 2.0. And he don't want to see her when she's mad.
For the sake of it,
Imagine Tony Khan dealing with Mercedes Moné tantrum, bro.
Will just like frame Mercedes like she's the Incredible Hulk. That was incredible.
for the sake of everybody in the universe, let's hope that Mercedes and AEW go swimmingly.
Darren Walker, £5. Appreciate it. Any views on CMLL show? Enjoy the women's trios match, and also any Collision views. I know Monty said that the Zack match got cancelled. We'll get into the weekend recap. We still got a good bit of time left, brother. Hush 199 Santana said, and Chris Van Vliet said, one more person to the Fed. Any guesses?
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know why. I didn't know who he was talking about.
I think Jericho. Because he said at the start, like, if you think at the start, like, who would it be, really? It's like Mox or Jericho, right?
But yeah, and it's definitely not John. But my thing is just, when Chris talks about AEW, he seems very in like lockstep with the promotion. He seems like he very much believes in it. Like, he just kind of comes off like.
Have you considered, especially after the last hour or so, that wrestlers might lie? Because
how did we come to the conclusion it was Mox or Jericho?
Well, because he said at the start of the promotion there were two guys that he said I knew they'd jump. And one of them was Cody.
Because I didn't see the interview. So
yeah, it was. I will say it was actually a really good interview, and I know some of the headlines are the headlines. And that's
he's been through some shit, man. He's got himself clean.
He really has.
Well.
He really has. Yeah, and I'm rooting for him. It seems like TNA's the landing spot. I think Fightful had that. I think that's natural. But yeah, he said like there was two guys he knew would jump, and he said Cody was one, and the other one's still there. There was a moment in the interview that was actually quite interesting where Van Vliet was like, "What did you learn from Chris Jericho?" And began to put Jericho over, and Santana just kind of sat there and said, "I learned more like watching him conduct business than I did in the ring," and that was about as far as he went, you know. And I think that was pretty telling in terms of just, you know, that's kind of that makes sense with what we kind of understand about that inner circle dynamic, right?
Rainbow 199 appreciate it. Hashtag AEW saved my life. Hashtag thank you AEW. Hashtag I love my nice boss.
I gotta say, the first person making that tweet being Sammy Guevara was unbelievably funny.
Scott 279 appreciate it. Any of you watched the Braid doc? Yeah, I know me and Ibu haven't seen it. I believe Joe scanned it real quick.
I did, yeah. I just wanted to
haven't sat down for it yet.
Add it to my continue watching gimmick. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it at some point.
I watched a different documentary on Sunday and got some backlash from my views on it. I watched the Roman Reigns A&E documentary.
Yes, you did. Trust the process, 34.99. Appreciate it. I know they'd be clowning Tony Khan in the rest of the group chats, and I think he's an easy stimmy check. About to hire Barry Bloom and get him to finesse the mark Tony Khan for a bag. That's one of the quotes apparently from the. I don't know, I kind of butchered that, but you need to kind of read it to know what part of the quote is, you know. So, I've seen footage, €10. Why have work punches gotten so bad? Most Fry Takayama spots make me bury my face in my hands.
It's not a priority in wrestling right now when it comes to just layout of matches and things you teach and things you are doing in your match. Not a priority.
It's especially like I saw it last night at Rev Pro show, which was a good show, but it's so the wrestling style is so homogenized, you know, like every guy.
Forearm and chop.
Fly slap forearm, the chop. They stand in centering and trade forearms, and it's like, you know, again, look, there's when that's done well by the right guy, that could be awesome. But every single guy does it, even like a chicken shit heel. It's unfortunate.
It's nuts when it comes to that. When it comes to like the lack of creativity of match layouts and how like so many singles matches, it's like you get the early exchanges, then you get the. Then the babyface hops in place while the heel is on the outside to prepare. And so you go, he does the dive. You get back in the ring. And then after a little bit of a back and forth, now it's like, all right, this is the point where we trade forearms. And then it's like, all right, now we do our closing stretch. And then we do the shock faces when you kick out of my transition moves, you know, so.
Yep, I saw a lot of that last night.
I was going to say, I bet you that was a lot of the undercards.
It was really good. I mean, I will say.
I believe you.
There was a dog collar match on the show, which I did not know there was a dog collar match. Alex Windsor and I forget the
Danny Luna.
subculture. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, folks, I'm just bad with names, but that was pretty awesome. They're both on the Razor.
That's
It was
awesome.
cool. Josh Alexander and Leon Slater, WrestlePurists Worldwide alumnus, tore it up. They had a really good match. Really good.
I liked the subculture tag team when I watched them.
They're good. Yeah, they wrestled the Grizzled Young Veterans yesterday. It's good.
Sounds perverted.
GYV are a good team, man. I mean, I know I'm breaking any news here, folks, but they really are a good team.
Good workers, know what
Yeah.
they're doing in there,
Yep.
They're one of those team,
Yeah.
Throw them in at any level.
Good pros.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk a bit more about the weekend. Let's get into the weekend. Where do you want to start? We've got Smackdown, we've got AEW. We can talk about Arena Mexico,
I think
So-
the Arena Mexico main event that's a good place to start, I think.
I'll start with the main event.
Well, I only watched the main event in the Rocky Romero match.
Oh, there was only the trio. There was out of
Willow's
highlights us, out of
Willow, yeah.
our
Which I saw
highlights us
Willow.
Western, us UK, us US fans. I said Western then, like it was in fucking Asia or something. But I'd say the highlights were like the last three matches with the Willow match, the Willow Trios match, where she tagged with Tessa Blanchard, which was quite
Yeah, that was
jarring and unfortunate. But,
Monty,
it happened.
you obviously didn't see it, and no one probably particularly should. It's like pretty crap, but it would pop you so much. I think right before the women's match, there was a really crappy minis match, and I had a thought watching it that I think you would too, which is just wrestling just needs a minis match on every big show. It's just a shitty.
Dude, I was
It's
reminded.
inconsequential. Like if the crowd shit for it, it doesn't matter. Like,
I was reminded today that was the World Wrestling Federation's replacement match when Pillman passed away at Bad Blood. I forgot. That's got to be one of the more insane. Like they announced Brian Pillman's death, and then they're like, up next in the replacement match, the best we could do. That's literally what Vince says is it's the best we could do tonight. And they bring out the minis. Jesus, man, what chance do they have? It's brutal.
It's crazy.
Insane wrestling moment that no one talks about.
Most notable minis now are like 45 to 55 because like it's just not a thing anymore. Yeah, like it was such a staple of like.
Court Bauer tried it.
It was a real in Brett's book. Without realizing that he brings up in every chapter that the minis were the best workers on the show. He does it like consistently throughout the book.
Bro, listen, I watched the AAA show from 1994, and the second best match I saw was the minis match with Aspect Reapers.
They know how to like work. Like playing to a crowd because they always get some kind of reaction when people first initially see them, and then over the years they know how to play into it. And it's Brett's a fan.
They said the match wasn't particularly good at all. It has like a 4-on-cage match, but what I'll say about it is it's a bunch of old gimpy minis that are just too old for this shit, clearly. And they're like kind of laboriously running across the ring to punch each other and shit and flex. You're like, I got this motherfucker. And he's punching and stuff. And I'm like, this is real.
Not real shit. But yeah. So there was that. There was the trios match, which was. It was. I don't want to botch this, man. So bear with me. Okay, so we got La Catalina, who used to be in WWE, I believe. She was in NXT. Tessa Blanchard, unfortunate. Willow Nightingale defeat Luvia, Stephanie Vaquer, and what's her name?
Zeuxis.
Zeuxis. Yeah, this was a good vibes. It's kind of the main takeaway I had from that, really. I thought Willow was kind of like the big takeaway from it. She just comes across as crowds just take to her, man. I know it's something we've said a few times, but obviously we're talking about like across different states in America, which obviously is still impressive. America's huge, and it's just like, every state's like a different country, especially when you're an outsider like me and Joe are. So that's impressive in itself. But to see her go in an arena in Mexico and connect as well. She connects with the New Japan strong audiences as well. Like she's just a great babyface. So that's kind of my main takeaway. But yeah, Ibu, I know you was a fan as well.
Yeah, I think Willow's charisma translates no matter where she's at. And so it's so cool that she's the international representative of the promotion.
Mhm.
Willow will go to Japan. Willow will go to Mexico and represent AEW and do what she does. And I mean, we've all said this a million times. She's just an absolute superstar, you know. So I was very happy with Willow's performance. I thought the match was worked at a nice pace. There was some good heat. It was structured well. I had a lot of fun with this. Unfortunately, Tully's daughter was quite sharp here, but it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. It is what it is. But I like this match a lot. I thought it was really fun.
But yeah, shout out Willow. She got the win as well. It was a best 2 out of 3. Willow got the winning fall over Stephanie Vecchia, so she'll probably be challenging for one of her 3 titles at some point. All right, then we had the final of this. Ibu's explained it. I think it might have been on the Sunday podcast, but there was like this really cool tournament that we're doing in CMLL, and it was like the ultimate Can They Coexist tournament where you team up with your greatest rival, and obviously, you know, it kind of builds the stories in the matches just write themselves, you know, and it came to the final. On this Arena Mexico show, which is Mascara Dorada and Rocky Romero, who have been feuding against Atlantis Jr. and Soberano Jr., who have also been feuding. So, I love this, bro. It's just so well put together and smartly worked and shit, and they just fed off the crowd as well. And it was. I love this on many levels, Joe Hall. But
yeah, because that was what was impressive about it, right? It was like when I kind of heard about the concept, I was like, I don't know how that actually looks. What was really impressive was the story pieces and the character moments you mentioned are like really at home here. But they never felt like they were sacrificing action to do that stuff, right? Like it always felt like you were still watching like the ultimate version of this like wacky all-star tag. But it was like both pieces worked together in a way that I didn't necessarily foresee. I thought it was killer. You can't compare anything to the main event of this show, but like this was, if anyone out there only saw the main, go back for this. This was like kind of fascinating in terms of, as you said, the way it was put together. Really interesting.
It was fascinating in that regards. It led to like a unique set of psychology that they had to adhere to in the match because it's not your normal traditional tag match. How the hell are you going to do a match with a heel in the face versus a heel in the face? How are the fans going to react to this? And I'll tell you what, as someone that watches the Friday CMLL TVs on the Arena Mexico, on any given Friday, this would be like a standout main event for those shows. And this being something to bolster an even greater, super memorable main event match was something else. For those that don't know, Soberano Jr. is in a stable with Rocky Romero and Templario, and they're Los Principes. And so it was remarkable, guys, that the heels, when they're in there, they're taking the piss. And they're dancing and they're making a big joke out of this thing. When the baby faces are in there together, they're having an honorable wrestling match. They're wrestling sincerely because, you know, they're competitors. And it was just so funny to witness like those dynamics. I don't know if you guys noticed, Atlantis Jr. was getting booed in this match. And the reason why he's getting booed is for two.
enough of him.
It's crazy. So he's
Sick of him.
He is so talented, right? But
I like him, yeah.
He is tremendous in my opinion, and this crowd decided this is a nepo baby. Stop forcing him down our throats. And on a normal given Friday, guys, that doesn't happen. He gets cheered. Do you know why this happened on this night, Joe? It's because this show sold out weeks in advance. Because and the people that bought these tickets are hardcore wrestling fans. And on a normal given Friday CMLL, the show is filled with tourists in the crowd. So on a normal night, the tourists are like, oh, look at this baby. It's cool. You know what I mean? But on this night with the hardcores, he's getting a smart reaction in Mexico.
It's like 2010s WWE running Philly. You know?
Yeah. It was so funny. I'm like, this guy's getting the smart reaction. Holy crap. But I thought this was spectacular. I love when Atlantis does the like repeated tilt-over backbreakers. I love the power slam. It's so gorgeous, the timing of it. He does this running ramp into the crossbody, but he misses his opponent. Rocky's solid as usual. So Ronald Jr. is so charismatic. You hear these women like going crazy for him in the audience.
It's so awesome, dude. His presence is like, and the way he has that one look to the people, and they come up. It's great.
I told Monty, I told AO this yesterday, and I told the guys on the Sunday show. It just when you watch real big time high end lucha libre in front of a big audience, one of the things that's like staggering to me, and this is gonna sound like a very like basic and vapid thought, but these people like work like stars. You know what I mean? They know how to play up to that big arena. You know what I mean?
They work like Arena Mexico stars specifically as well.
Yeah, they actively work to the people. It's very different to what we're increasingly used to the TV camera business. Where I mean, sometimes it happens like a lot with TV where they're working to actually no one in that side of the building. They're working to people at home, which is fine. But it's so prevalent now. There's actually a lost art of just interacting with the people.
And it's strong with the CMLL guys because like they'll do the Tuesday shows and they'll do some of these house shows on the smaller like loops in Mexico, and their mentality for working is just we're wrestling in front of a casual audience and we have to do this house show style match where and it's so cool, Joe, because on the Tuesday shows they'll turn the action down a notch and turn the shtick up a little bit, and it's broadcast. You can watch it if you want to, and like it's fascinating because on those shows, Sobrano Jr. is still Sobrano Jr., but he hones the other aspects of his game as a performer, and so on those shows he's stalling when he's getting in the ring. He's doing certain tricks. He's trying to rip masks off. He's being a troll. He's going into the crowd to find people to fight with. He's trying to get a girl's number in the crowd. These are things that he does. Like, he'll go to a girl and flirt with her in the crowd on a Tuesday show, and then Mystical will get in the ring and like, get your ass back in here. And he's like, no. He's snatching his head.
Heroes and villains.
Yeah, and those little tricks that you consistently sharpen and hone, and you're not doing your same homogenized style every match. They do that on those nights, and so that on the big night, on a big show like this wasn't just a Super Viernes. This was a big show. On a big show like this, where there's a packed crowd, all those things that you have to your disposal, your toolbox, they're all in play, and that's when you really see who's truly great, who's truly a star, who truly knows how to work.
I think those little CMLL isms, or whatever we'll call them, I think they translate to US TV as well when sometimes these guys get signed to an AEW or a WWE. Like you see, even with someone like the mid-card guys, like you could take someone like I don't know, like did Angel Garza was in CMLL, right?
I believe he did spend time there, yes.
I think you can tell, like, by the way that he kind of plays to the crowd and things sometimes. But obviously, I'm sure there's better examples as well. But I think you can tell when the guys came from those Arena Mexico shows.
That's universal, dude. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's just what Ibu described really is, now we sound like old heads, but really is just actually listening to the audience and reacting accordingly and treating each crowd as what it is, which is a one night thing. What do they want tonight? Like that's kind of it's increasing. We were just talking about the Rev Pro show I saw last night. So, but quickly, like it's also what you lose from shows like where everyone there is like in on it, and he's like playing along with the game that you're playing. Like they ooh and ah at the chops, and they just it's all wink wink. You're in front of just casual folks that paid money to see the wrestling that night, bro. That's a different ball game. It's great for wrestlers' development.
Absolutely.
Garza was
he was
freelancer. He was a free. He was just He was doing all kinds of shit in Mexico.
He has passed by CMLL, but he wasn't he was never a contracted wrestler. But the sentiment remains the same, to be honest with you. So
yeah, man. Then of course let's talk about the Spider Bag because that's the real meat and potatoes. Blackpool Combat Club. Matt Sydal as the guest team captain. God bless. Love Matt Sydal, man. He's fucking rules.
Happy to told you the finish, bro. It was so funny. He's the captain. I was like, oh well, there's the finish.
Stay there.
All right. So we had Ultimo. We had Ultimo Dragon. We had Blue Panther. We had
Ultimo Guerrero. Ultimo Dragon to be a completely different match.
Ultimo Guerrero. More apologies. Ultimo Guerrero, Blue Panther, Valador Jr., Mystico. And is that everyone?
Blue Panther, Mystico, Ultimo Guerrero, and Volador Jr. on the
Yeah,
Said
that was it.
everyone,
Yeah,
right?
that was it. Yeah, that was everyone. Versus, as previously said, Blackpool Combat Club with a slight substitution for Willie Uter. Big team captain, Matt Sydal. We love you, brother. This was a moment in time. I thought as a match, like it really felt like a the night CMLL recaptured the worldwide audience. You know, like it was like this real like I don't know, like I say, it felt like a real moment, bro. The atmosphere, it felt special. You know, um, and I thought the match itself kind of lived up to it as well. You know, it kind of rigged that wave. You know, when Blue Panther does his big comeback at the end, and it's just like it was just there was a lot of layers to this that were made it very lovable, and a lot of them weren't kind of the traditional big main event 5-star classic stuff. It was more kind of like old school, you know.
Yeah.
I loved a lot about this, and I'm sure more co-host Joe and Ibu can articulate a lot better. So, Joe, I'll let you get started.
Yeah, no, I get what you're. It is one of those matches that's slightly difficult to circle because it's not like a conceptual thing or a structural thing. It is really a feel thing, right? It's heat and fire and aggression and energy and the way these fellas were throwing punches and the way that everything had such juice and used old school as a phrase. It did feel like it was surreal because it felt like a classic tape that inexplicably featured all of today's, well, not all of some of the fellas that could have been on those classic tapes, I should note, but Dragon, Arena Mexico, and it must be said, Brian Danielson always looks thrilled to be in there wrestling, right? He's a guy who wrestles with such passion and glory. I don't think I've ever seen him so visibly overjoyed to be wrestling the matches. I mean, you could really feel it in everything Brian did. He was so happy to be there. And I think that bled into kind of the entire match. There was an energy and enthusiasm to this that made it quite special. We're only in April here, folks, but there's been a lot of wrestling, and this is one of the kind of highlights of the year thus far, right? Long way to go, but this was like very distinct. There's a lot of great wrestling that you question how great it is sometimes based on how quickly you move on, right? We've had that conversation before. I don't think you're going to be mistaking this for a different memory anytime soon. This was quite singular, I thought. This was very special.
Yeah, I second this. I expressed the same thing yesterday. So for fear of I don't want to repeat myself. For those of you that watch both shows, thank you if you did. But I think it's cool, Joe, that in this era, in this last decade plus or so, where we're in the era of the almost like super epic singles matches where, back and forth and the highs and lows and the near falls and all that type of stuff, that this year, two of the most enduring and coolest matches, at least in my view, in my estimation, are matches that are between the Sting retirement and this. They're very novel, unique, joyous wrestling experiences that at their core work because they're just very classical in how they adhere to the principles of wrestling. And these types of matches, the Sting retirement and this one, in eras prior, they've existed, but their ceilings wouldn't be as high, like this type of match. And it's the type of thing that'd be reserved for like an undercard setting. And I think now what we're seeing is that type of match done at the highest level is just as good as any great match out there, whether it be a prestige singles title match or anything. And so because of that, I'm not embarrassed or in any way to say that this is one of my favorite matches of the year. Same with the Sting thing. They're just so overwhelmingly pure. They're so overwhelmingly just fun and neat.
Lovely.
And yeah,
Warmed your heart.
It
really was. It actually did have that feel, though. It actually was like heartwarming. That's the insane thing to say about blokes whacking each other for 15 minutes.
Old bloke.
And also, Blackpool Combat Club were like, this is by far the coolest they've ever felt.
I feel like maybe it's almost like they were never meant to be a home team. It feels like they're supposed to be going into different territories and groups and invading your house, and your guys got to take them down and chase them out of there. It feels like that's what they should be. Being within the gang, being within AEW and talking about we're going to toughen AEW up. It's a great concept. I have no issue with the concept, but in actuality, it's never peaked this high in my opinion. And
like bullies here, dude. It was great.
The other thing I want to make mention, Blue Panther was like awesome in his own respect in this match, right? But I thought it was cool that like, for those that aren't super familiar with the product, but Volador Jr. and Mystico are veterans. They're both in their early 40s at this point, but they're veteran existing top guys. And I love the tier and the hierarchy system of CMLL because Volador Jr. and Mystico, incumbent ace figures, 42 years old type guys, they still get it done. Underneath them are the young guys that are clearly being positioned that way, and they tag with these types of dudes, the Atlantis Juniors of the world and stuff like that, right? And then, then you have like the really young guys who are just coming into their own, Mascara Dorada, who's being pushed, and other guys who are in the preliminary guys. But within this tag specifically, Volador and Mystico were so awesome. Like they came in and they were spectacular.
Volador.
I
was saying to people earlier, man, Volador fucking pops me huge, bro. He's on he's doctors, we'll call them. I've got him on some fantastic cocktail, brother, let me tell you. He's still doing it. Yeah. He's a beast.
Also, dude, breaking news on this one. Claudio Castagnoli is like otherworldly. But it's always when it's the same as what we were talking about BCC. I had the same takeaway when remember they did that match in New Japan. I think it was like Dominion. They did a BCC trios, and it was like, oh shit! Like Claudio is still like he's that great. You can take him for granted. You see him in a different setting sometimes, especially this setting is very much one he's natural in. That's like people, I don't think people realize when they talk about the way he bases for lucha. Like that's literally his background. And God, you could tell. I mean, he's just incredible.
Incredible stuff all around, really. But yeah, that was our WrestlePurists match of the week. Blue Panther is a WrestlePurists wrestler of the week. God bless. I love this website.
How about career heel base Ultimo Guerrero being a fiery, like just old man ass kicker in this match? Incredible.
He is doing some shit, man. All right, let's rest of the weekend. What else we got? SmackDown, 2 qualifying matches for that 6-pack ladder match thing that they're doing at Mania. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller qualified against Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, but they will be part of a 6-man Philadelphia street fight that Nick Aldis just made official against the Authors of Pain, Karrion Kross. And in the other qualifier,
I'm going to put money that match is really fun. I'm willing to hedge my
reputation. Keep saying this.
It's not about
that bold. I don't think it's that bold of a prediction.
Yeah, it's what the match represents to those of us that believe in justice. That's what it is.
Anyway, in the other qualifying match, New Catch Republic, which of course is the local boys, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, good lads, defeating Legado del Fantasma, Angle, and Berto. So, yeah, man. SmackDown, and of course, the big takeaway was the Jay Cargill SmackDown appearance, and then showing up at the end of the show and clearing house and looking like a beast. And we got some Black God magic at the end of the show with the 3 of them kind of just looking like fucking beasts, like we got a few cool pictures out of it. We're here, Ribbo. It's I'm happy with the match that they've got. Naomi, Bianca, Jade versus Damage Control. I think it's a nice match to put on Mania.
I like it. This WrestleMania is coming together like a Japanese wrestling show, weirdly, because there's a lot of they know that there's a lot of heavy, weighty, personal grudge singles matches on this show, and so instead of adding more, they're trying to balance it with fun, light tag matches that can still add value within their own right, because big shows need these types of things. And so between the lasting match, which should just be, monster truck shit, where it's like Bobby smashing big guys, or, the Black Girl Magic tag where they take on Damage Control. The show is giving you moments to just kind of pop and smile and that type of thing. And I think this is a good spot for Jade, a good entry position. I think that the TV that Bianca's been doing with Naomi has been pretty good. And few rare moments of authentic Black woman interaction on wrestling programming, which is cool. And regarding Jade, I thought the show did a good job in presenting her. I'm not one of these people. Like, I thought her entrance genuinely It just is like it's what it was. I thought her entrance was awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I just thought it was, and I don't like those like WWE AR graphics, so I'm really glad they didn't do like a shitty CGI freaking lightning bolt or something.
I like what
Are you Ibu, are you still pretending that Dakota Kai is bad, or have you given that one up yet?
I'm fascinated that like she's better post ACL injury than she was. Like
she was never bad.
She's so good, man.
She knows ball, bro.
She's so good, dude.
My apology is pending. I won't go full on apologetic tag, but 2 straight singles matches where she was like among the better workers on the show, if not the best worker on the show. It's kind of remarkable.
I'll never forget when Dakota Kai was like the only woman in a War Games match that took it as a War Games match.
Yeah,
you know?
She was like on
what year was that?
All of the years, bro. She's always in those matches. She's the best, dude. She's like one of those wrestlers that's so valuable because you can put her in any role. She'd be a great babyface, heel, takes great bumps, selfless. Her offense does look good. She's tremendous.
Extremely selfless. Yeah, she's awesome, man. So yeah, like I said, a few matches I added to WrestleMania. Looking forward to some of them. All right, so AEW, let's talk about Collision. Was Rampage on this week? Anything from Rampage?
We watched the main event, you and I.
Oh my god.
Quebec City.
Oh man, the people locked in for Papa Magie versus who the fuck was he wrestling? Roddy, of course he was wrestling Roddy. And wrestling Roddy strong is never an easy night out for any wrestler, bro. You know, he's gonna put you through your paces, he's gonna be physical, it's gonna be a long night, you know. And then you poor Daddy Magic, you know, you're not used to doing 20-minute title matches in the main event for AEW TVs. It's been a minute. You've been chilling on the commentary booth. People love you. You've been doing some good backstage promo. Everyone who don't like Daddy Magic at least a little bit, you know. Charismatic, likeable, decent worker, but in this position, you could tell about 10 minutes into this. And then he takes his brutal apron bump. And you watch it, and it's like when you watch a friend fall over, but it looks like a bad one, and you're like,
yeah,
how's he gonna get up from that? And you can tell he was just in agony, bro. You know, whether it was his breathing or his back, or like, oof.
It wasn't good, but it was interesting. The jeans, the tape, they had genuinely had 14 minutes to fill.
Why does he dress like 1999 British Bulldog?
Because he's a beast. He's a hooper, yeah. But they had time to fill, and it was like Roddy was doing like an NWA, like he's the world champion, and this was like the best match that he could have in Quebec City. You know, like we've got this guy, he's a babyface. Do your best. And every trick they could come up with, like they did like crowd work for the first 3 minutes. I mean, it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't good necessarily, but it was a shift from Daddy Magic, who I think will probably never wrestle a singles match of that length again in his life.
Nor do I think he wants to. So good for him.
He gave it all he had, and the people liked it. I mean, again, like it's not one of Roderick Strong's top 1,000 matches, but the people liked it, which matters most.
I got a little bit of a surprise for you. I don't even think my co-host is fully aware of what's about to happen on here.
Oh no. Is it CM Punk?
Close. Very close. Very close.
Are you still?
Big Arena Mexico show. I'm disappointed that our friend about to join us isn't wearing his famous Blue Panther mask, but here he is, Manny the Hooper, joining us live and direct. What's going on, brother?
So you guys cut out for me, so this is not a good start for me already.
Oh no. This is not. Manny, let me know if you can hear us right now. Throw up a piece or do something.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You just can't see. Yeah, we can see. You can't see us, or is that what's going on?
No, I can see you. No, I just for some reason, I guess when you let me in, I just stopped hearing y'all. So, and all the screens went black.
Big pop in the live chat for Manny the Hooper, of course, one of the WrestlePurists worldwide OGs. always got a constant pass to come in these shows when he's got something to say. But I'm guessing you want to say something about Arena Mexico. That's what got you urged to pass through.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys said about Punk or what you guys already did, but I don't really got much to add about it. I just thought it was pretty funny.
That was kind of our takeaway, you know? I mean, we kind of went through it and just popped and kind of broke down a few things. And
I will say, I thought it was like an hour-long convo, and then I looked back at my phone when I was done working. I said, oh, shit, 2 hours flew by. I had no idea 2 hours flew by.
Hey, man. It's what he does.
Yeah, the parts that popped me was him just calling Tony a shitty boss, and then...
There we go. That's what Manny wanted to get to.
Manny's talking...
He's been, like, tiptoeing around what he wants to get into.
He's making small talk with us like we're waiting for an appointment or something.
Well, I don't know how much...
brother. Just say something crazy, bro.
You want to bury someone? Bury him, brother. We're here. We got 10 minutes left. You know?
I fucking buried Matt Sydal. Fuck him, bro. Fucking...
What? What? What did Matt Sydal do?
Bro, he's representing the USA and he went fucking to Mexico and lost. He tapped in 1 second. USA and Mexico is a big rivalry. Why the fuck you flew over there if you're just gonna tap in 1 second to his submission? If I was Tony, I would have let his ass stay in Mexico.
Putting away any money he can put it, people. All right, we're just gonna continue with this last 10 minutes then. We got Manny the Hooper joining us as well. I don't know what he's seen, if he's seen anything. He don't watch wrestling anymore. All right, AEW Collision in London, Ontario. Adam Copeland versus Matt Cardona in the Cope Open. Matt Cardona, of course, entering the Cope Open, very much to most people's surprise. And if you was one of kind of like the wrestling snobs that would like understandably roll your eyes at this, you have to kind of give it to him, man, because I think this match had a lot of heat, and I think they used that heat productively, and I think they actually ended up having a pretty good match by the end of it. So, yeah, man, Adam Copeland, his first total defense on this, right? I think. Yeah, man, good stuff. Matt Cardona, good account of himself. Of course, most people are already familiar with him anyway. So, good opener, man. Good opener. Anyone got anything to add?
I agree. After I didn't watch Collision Live, so when I heard about the news, I wasn't really rushing to it. I agree. I had a good match, and look, the crowd was helpful, right? But they're like, Copeland's in good form right now, man. He is, and Cardona was right there with him. They had a good match, absolutely.
They were originally going to do a promo segment at the start of the show. The original format of Collision was going to have Matt Cardona do his shtick to get over, and talk to the crowd and stuff and go back and forth with Copeland, and then they were going to then wrestle in the main event, and then ultimately Tony opted for just let them wrestle at the start of the show. And to Cardona's credit, they knew exactly who he was and reacted as such, because part of the reason why they wanted him to do the promo was to basically communicate what this new version of Matt Cardona is to this audience. But they already knew.
Yeah, man. Would have been a waste of time.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was. It was. Nothing crazy. It was good. Yeah. All right. Tag team tournament, quarterfinal, FTR versus the Infantry, and I think this was a much better performance from the Infantry than was it last week, the week before. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty decent match. For FTR was so giving in this match.
Yeah.
When they click with someone and there isn't really like a rough chemistry and finding each other's footing, which is more rare than frequent, to be honest, with FTR. If they really want to make a point of making a team look good, they can do it, man. And I think they're kind of proven that point here. And I don't want to take too much away from the Infantry, because I think anyone who watches these shows knows that I'm one of the most skeptical people about them being on TV with the kind of roster that AEW has and the AEW tag team bracket that they probably could have put out for this tournament. I wouldn't say that I think that it was right to do this, if that makes sense. You know,
Mhm.
I still think you could have put like a better tag team in there, and I don't really think the infantry have gained like, oh my god, because like for this to have been worth it in the sense, because when we was talking about like 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, Joe, it would have had to have been like this performance here against FTR would have had to have been like fucking. You know what I mean? It would have had to have set the timeline on fire. They would have had to have had like a fucking 4-star match, you know, which obviously would have been somewhat unrealistic and quite high expectations. Obviously, wrestling, you can sometimes capture that lightning in a bottle and you can kind of fluke it and get it, you know. But all that being said, and with them not hitting those particular heights where people are going to be demanding to see them every week now, there's another decent account of themselves, man. Then no, last week or whenever it was on the Face House of Black, that was rough. You know, that was rough. But yeah, they're at least showing that they can hang if they are led by the right team. You know what I'm saying? So like, they're it's another tag, ain't it?
It is. It gives some depth to the division. FTR were clearly super motivated to try and help them and elevate them. As you said, they gave them a lot, probably too much, to be honest. But it was really, I mean, it was a strong match. The last third, you started to see a few chinks in the armor, right? There was a couple. Sometimes it seems like the infantry, the biggest thing is just they're rushing, which is like, I get it, it's TV, right? So, but yeah, I honestly think they're a fine team. And it also does seem like they are able to, we were talking about earlier, it looks like they're pretty good at working the crowd and getting the people involved, which is important because, you know, especially when you're on second on Collision and they've just had a Cardona Copeland match, it helps, right? So, yeah, a good match. I agree with you, it's nothing like groundbreaking, but it can help the division. The division needs depth, man. Like, it's not enough teams, you know? So,
Absolutely.
we'll see what happens with the next, but a good match.
Yeah, man. What else we have on Collision? Kyle O'Reilly defeated JD Drake. Always good to see him. I wish that actually would have went a bit longer because I'm looking at Cage Watch now and he only went 2 minutes. And even in real time, I was like, you could have given JD Drake a bit more than that, man. I found myself for a few years in AEW now wanting JD Drake to get a bit more. Like, I'm not expecting him to be like TNT champ or anything, but you know, when he's given space to fill in these matches, he usually does a very, very good job. So
it's interesting. Like he'll get like a week where he gets treated the way you're looking for, and then it goes back. Right, like he had a match with Hangman that was like a real match not that long ago, and there's never like a follow up. Like he just does it, and then he's back to being his prior role. It is a shame. I enjoy his work a lot.
So we had another tag team tournament quarterfinal match. Top Flight defeating Big Bill and Ricky Starks. Bit of a worrying moment in this where I think it's Darius Martin goes for a Pele kick and he kind of catches Ricky, I think either on the shoulder or on the back of his head, and Ricky gets a bit of a stinger, and basically he goes to call an audible and goes to go home, and the referee doesn't count it, even though it's a blatant free count, and it's really embarrassing. This isn't the first time it's happened in AEW. They need to sort this out, etc., etc., etc. Enough of that rant, but and then eventually they do the transition into another pin, and then obviously the referee counts the pin. So Ricky picked up a bit of a stinger in this. I think initial reports are suggesting that it was nothing too serious. I think Ricky put something on his Instagram as well saying that he's all good. So nothing too much to worry about there. Top Flight advancing the tournament. Not the greatest match, to be honest, but we live to fight another day, don't we, people? You know.
Yeah, I'm glad Ricky seems to be okay. That's the most important thing. Obviously, the finish got changed. I believe they even played Ricky's music on the finish.
They were expecting Ricky and Big Bill to win. Obviously, they were going to advance, and FTR were going to get their win back on the next round.
Which is now you're in a situation where FTR are going to basically work heel in the quarter and semi-final on the Rhodes wrestling the Bucks as baby faces. So, but it is what it is. Again, Ricky's helps the priority. So I'm glad he seems to be okay.
100%. Thunder Rosa defeats Lady Frost, and it's also announced on this show, backstage segment interview with Mariah May. Tony Storm kissed Mariah May on this show. It was very striking. But Thunder Rosa versus Mariah May for a number one contenders match to see who will be facing Tony Storm next. So, of course, with Mariah May and Tony Storm being not together, that's, kind of a bit of a plot there. Thunder Rosa, of course, the champion that never lost a bout in the ring. There's plot there. I'm hoping that's a really good match because that's two women as well. But like you see, Thunder Rosa, like even if she's having a little bit of a rough match, she's one of those women's wrestlers that pop me. There's a certain type. I think Joe will understand this. Certain women where like the match might quite not be going as smoothly as they want it to, so they just start whacking people.
It's going to be physical, yeah. I think it's one of those ones that could get rough around the edges, and I mean that in a positive way. Of like, it feels like they're one strike away from that thing exploding right into like a shootout. So I think it will be fun.
Yeah, man. And we had a Blackpool Combat Club main event as well. Obviously warming up for Arena Mexico. Okay, so that was Collision. Spoke CMLL, spoke Smackdown. Manny, have you got anything else you want to include to the people? The people have missed you, man.
I miss the people. I just want to. I mean, I don't really do much anymore. I mean, I just
exist.
Yeah, I just kind of just exist, flow through the day,
God.
I want to give a shout out to the Mexicans last weekend.
This camera is incredible.
They won. They beat the Americans, and then Pitbull Cruz beat Broly. So it's been a big weekend. So let's see if Thunder Rose can continue the momentum. So
I think she might. I don't think they're going to do the Mariah thing just yet. So I think they might. I think Thunder Rosa might bring it home for you, man. Anyway, a couple of super chats and we're going to get right. Go on, man. Real quick, though.
All I'm waiting for is my boy Roosh to come back. I don't know when he's coming back. And shout out my GOAT, Blue Panther.
Roosh is waiting too.
Someone said Manny got the Triple H FaceTime angle. I'm crying.
Yeah, Roosh is retweeting people saying that WWE's got Dragon Lee on WrestleMania and Roosh is in catering.
That was very fascinating, yeah.
Well, he's not even catering. He's just stuck in his home. I mean,
it's tough times. Anyway, Super Chats and getting out of here, then heading to the go home for WrestleMania Monday Night Raw. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Roman Reigns, CM Punk will apparently, according to our own reports, will be somewhere in the building. Whether he'll be on the show, we don't know, but it wouldn't surprise us. Cody Rhodes obviously going to be on the show. Blah blah blah. You know what happens on Raw. Anyway, Randy, $2. If Cody never comes back, who would be the one to beat Roman Reigns?
My pick would be Braun Breaker. I'd have Braun do
Mysterio.
Braun would be my.
If the Sammy angle goes as it went, and Cody's not there, you just do Sammy, right?
Right. Yeah.
Mazfan 84 199, appreciate it. Why do old heads feel threatened by lucha? It depends on what it depends on what you see as lucha. Because if lucha isn't necessarily just like run and flips and shit, like if mass versus mass matches is like a perfect example of that. Like it's a lifestyle, brother. Anyway,
but they
actually
go ahead. Let's just go through.
And more $2. Appreciate it. Ibu, were you able to get any info on Nakajima? I don't think so.
No, I was not because during the heart of the time where I would have been inquiring this information, CM Punk was doing a 2-hour interview with Ariel Helwani.
Yeah, tomorrow we got the Raw review tomorrow with Ibu anyway. So another day, another chance. Huncho 199. Will either of the top two ever sign Tessa Blanchard? No. Huncho 199. How many crossroads will Cody Rhodes hit Roman with on Sunday?
4.
I was gonna go 4. 4. Yeah, 4 feels right. 440 WrestleMania 40. Beautiful stuff. Lovely thing to end on. And okay, tomorrow, WrestlePurists WWE Raw review hosted by Ibu and Rob. Make sure you watch that. Ibu's going to ask about Nakajima. I can't promise he's going to find anything out, but this is going to be a great episode of Raw. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you enjoy the WrestleMania week. We're going to do like a preview and review and stuff like that, so there'll be a bit extra WrestlePurists content this week. And again, thanks as always for tuning in. Thanks for the super chats. Please like and subscribe on your way out. Appreciate you as always. And peace.